Alright, so once more we think we've got it. We're moving the date to be LL10, LL11, which is Friday, Saturday, Sunday coming, August the 24th, 25th, 26th. We've got the second fast sign at sunset on Saturday, August 25th, which is the end of LL10, the 7th Sabbath of the 4th Marriage Pentecost, which runs from 4th Marriage on Thames 22, 2018 to LL11. And then we've got the third fast sign on the 4th Marriage Pentecost itself, which is LL11, which is exactly 26 years after my letter to the Society arrived, 1992, LL11 hand-delivered to Brooklyn. Now, before we get into why we've gone with those dates, I want to talk about the Passover, the LL14 Passover. I thought that Zoe would preside over that, but there isn't time for us to do that now. And the chief of the cupbearers, which is Laodicea, the cup is in their hand, which is 5 Passovers, which would appear to be ER14 to LL14. And he has a dream about 3 bunches of grapes, not 2.5 bunches of grapes. So they get both the regular third watchtower Passover, which is the third bunch of grapes, and the late version of it, which is LL14. So we're excluded from holding any of the 1NC reserve Passovers, which might have something to do with the fact that we didn't get appointed over any 1NCs for the second half of the second presence for the 1NC reserves. We missed that to Laodicea because we screwed up. And Revelation 7:1 says that there are 4 angels standing upon the 4 corners of the earth, holding back the 4 winds of the earth, so that no wind might blow against the earth or the sea or any tree. Another angel with the seal of the living God, saying to the 4 angels who had authority to harm the earth, do not harm the earth or the sea or the tree until after we've sealed the slaves of our God in their foreheads. Now the 1NC reserves aren't sealed in their foreheads, which is an ARC sealing, until LL10, the last day of Passover entry, because it's not known whether they will agree to it until they actually agree to it and enter into the Passover and agree to be a sheep and are baptized into the 3EC for that purpose. And then they're actually sealed into the CRC at the Passover, but that's not a sealing in the forehead. So the ARC sealing would be complete on LL10, I think. Certainly it's not complete until LL10, and it would be complete on LL14, but once they've agreed to become a sheep, God takes you at your word. So, once you agree to become married, God regards you as married. So once you agree to be a sheep, he takes you as having been sacrificed. So in other words, I think the sealing can't have occurred until LL10, and it must have occurred on LL10 because of that agreement. So the end of 1NC reserve sealing is LL10. So in other words, there can't be any wind knocking down any trees or doing anything like that, and the earth can't be treated unrighteously until LL10. But LL10 is the date that we now have for the second fast sign, which actually never could have occurred before LL10, because you have to get everybody sealed first. Now we actually have the fast sign at sunset on LL10, but that's exactly after everybody's been sealed. So that's the first thing. Then we've got the spies. Now the watchtower is overturned on Ab 24, was overturned, which is 40 days of Jonah's preaching after walking distance of 1 day, which is the first watchtower Passover, which was completed at the late version of that, which is Tammuz 14. So 40 days later is Ab 24, that's when the watchtower turned round or overturned. And then the 20-day sentence count, or 14 or 20-day sentence count of Joshua 2:23, of the 2 men who turn round and descend down the mountain and pass over and come to Joshua and tell him everything that's happened to them. That runs to LL14, and there's your 20 days, and then they arrive on LL14 and tell us what's going on, and they hide here for 3 days from LL14 to LL16. But guess what? That's the 3 days of Jonah, because the watchtower Passover is completed on LL14, so that then becomes the equivalent of Nisan 14, when Jesus was in the heart of the earth for 3 days, 3 nights, till Nisan 16. So this is LL14 to LL16. It's the same thing with LL replacing Nisan for the Jonah of the 1NC reserve half apostle, through whom all the 1NC reserves are baptized. Now the scripture says, referring to the 2 groups in the Exodus, the Jews leaving and the Egyptians chasing, that the one group did not come near the other group all night long. And I've known for a while that's the Passover night, but I didn't believe it extended all the way to LL14. But that is the end of the Passover night. In the greater meaning, the two groups are Laodicea and us, and we don't see any Laodicean, no spy, no nothing, until Elul 14, when we see the spies. So the one group does not come near the other group all night long. It means we never were going to see anybody till Elul 14, till the end of the Passover. Just as there couldn't be a fast sign until Elul 10, the last Passover entry day. And we do see them on Elul 14, there having been two fast signs on Elul 10 and Elul 11. Now the next thing we worked out, sorry it's taken us so long, is that the fast signs must actually occur at a divine Pentecost. I mean, that divine Pentecost can also be a Balian or a contest Pentecost or even an Assyrian Pentecost, but the point is that a super Pentecost is a no-show, which has to be a festival Sabbath no-show, followed by 7 more festival Sabbaths, followed by a Pentecost, which has to be divine, because the preceding 8 items, the no-show and the 7 Sabbaths, are all divine. So you can't finish off a super Pentecostal series of divine festival Sabbaths with a false worship Pentecost. That's stupid, which is what I've been doing. So it has to be a divine Pentecost, and it has to count entirely after the going back 7 times. Now, the going back 7 times, we did think it ran from, well, first of all, we've had a few guesses at this, but our most recent one, it was whenever the Pentecost was in 2011, Sivan, 1NC Pentecost, to 2018, Sivan 10, which was the 1NC Pentecost this year. We thought Sivan 9 actually it was in 2011. The only trouble is we didn't celebrate Sivan 9, we celebrated Sivan 6. And we had Sivan 6 as a no-show, as a prediction, but we didn't predict Sivan 9. So that doesn't really work. So then we go to Tammuz 7, which was the second 1NC Pentecost in 2011. And we did predict that date, and we attempted to celebrate it on Sivan 6, which was the wrong day for the regular 1NC Pentecost, but at least we tried to celebrate it. And it was a festival Sabbath no-show. So we start the 7 times from there, and it ends on the second 1NC Pentecost in 2018, 7 years or second 1NC Pentecost later, which is 2018 Tammuz 8. Now that period of 7 times we think is the Laodicean alienation times, 1NC alienation times. The reason we think that is they got reappointed on ER 19 2018 and reinstalled the Pentecost later, Tammuz 8, and the Holy Spirit was poured out at the end of the alienation times in 33 Sivan 5, which was the Pentecost, 20 years after 2488 Sivan BC, which was when God said to Noah, you've got 120 years. So if that's the reinstallation of Laodicea, it may well be the end of their alienation times. I'm not 100% sure about the 3 maledictions on Laodicea. It would have helped enormously had I been able to speak to them. But I will be able to do that on the 14th of Elul, which is Tuesday, Wednesday next week. So it's got to be a divine Pentecost, which counts wholly after having gone back 7 times for this Laodicean alienation times, which ended Tammuz 8. So the next divine Pentecost after that will be Tammuz 16 to Elul 5, which is the Zoa Pentecost. And we thought that would be the fire sign. But perhaps because we're the 7 Sabbaths are 1NC Pentecosts, and the no-show was a 1NC Pentecost, it means that the final Pentecost, which makes a super Pentecost, which is not only a Pentecost of weekly Sabbaths, but also a Pentecost of festival Sabbaths, that incredible construction should be a 1NC related Pentecost, and the Zoa Pentecost is not that. But the 4th marriage Pentecost is, because it's a marriage of 1NC reserves. So the first 1NC related Pentecost, which comes entirely after what we believe is the Laodicean alienation times, running from 2011 Tammuz 7 to 2018 at Tammuz 8, is the 4th marriage Pentecost, which ends on Elul 11. So then there's a fire sign either on the 7th Sabbath of that, which is Elul 10, or on the Pentecost itself, which is Elul 11. And we think that the second fire sign falls on Elul 10, at the end of Elul 10 at sunset, because Luke 12:54-56 insists that there's a rising cloud upon west at sunset. Then the third fire sign is Elul 11. And there is your divine Pentecost. And the fire signs must occur at a divine Pentecost because it's a super Pentecost, and a super Pentecost is a regular, actually it's a regular Pentecost, which is a divine Pentecost, which is a count of 7 Sabbaths, which are weekly Sabbaths, and then it's also a count of 7 festival Sabbaths. So everything's divine, so it should be a divine Pentecost. However, the wonderful thing about Elul 10 and Elul 11 is that they are also Barlean Pentecosts and contest Pentecosts, because the contest began 2006 ER1. So 50 days, or 89 Pentecosts later, inclusively is LL10 and exclusively is LL11. That's just 4450 BLC days after ER1 2006. Not only that, but LL11 is the 87th weekly Sabbath counted Pentecost after 2005 ER14, the fall of the Watchtower as a true church. So it's the 87th Watchtower Barlean Pentecost. So LL11 is a Barlean Pentecost, it is a contest Pentecost, and it is a divine Pentecost. Now, in order to satisfy 1 Kings 18, the Super Pentecost, it has to be divine. But since it's a contest against Baal, really it's cute if it's Barlean too. And since it's a contest and everything's Pentecostal in it, it's good if it's a contest Pentecost. So we've now got a very, very cute interpretation. It's both divine and Barlean and a contest Pentecost, LL11. And we've got the fire signs, the second on the 7th Sabbath, LL10, and the third on the Pentecost itself, LL11. As I've said before, the 12 baskets of fragments left over from after the Watchtower became a false church, the latest you can run them since they became a false church 2005 ER14. And since they're pre-formed baskets, they're calendar years, and the latest would be from 2005 Tishri 1 onwards. So the 12th basket would end 2017 LL30, and the 13th would end 2018 LL30. And we can't fill the 13th one. The 12 filled baskets means 12 plus perhaps a part of a 13th, but not all of a 13th. So the Watchtower must stop feeding by LL29. So you can't have a Tishri 14 Passover, it will be too late, they'll still be feeding. So it must be an LL14 Passover by that reasoning, which we're now going for, the final Watchtower Passover. Secondly, there's this wonderful scripture, "Give ye lodgment to these words in your ears. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners." Now give ye, Greek plural, lodgment to these words, Greek plural, in your ears, Greek plural, is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. Then the Son of Man is betrayed in the hands, plural, of sinners, Greek plural, is 5 plus 5 times 2, which is 20. 20 times 8 is 160. It's 160 months from ER 14 2005, when the Watchtower became false church, which meant that the 1 NC reserves in it were no longer in God's hands through the vassal of the true church. They were in man's hands. God no longer had anything to do with that church. I mean, those still in Laodicea, which is a true part of the Watchtower, a true church part of the Watchtower at that time, were still in God's hands. But all those in Watchtower prisons of disassociation and disfellowshipping, and all those in the congregations, were not in God's hands, and therefore in the hands of men, from 2005 ER14 onwards. And that situation pertains for 160 months, which takes you to 2018 LL14, when that situation no longer pertains, because they're all in a true church. In fact, on LL10 they're all in a true church. It doesn't have to be precisely 160 months. It has to be in the 160th month. And it's not 161 months, so you can't go to Tishri. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why our chronology kind of gets into serious problems if the final Watchtower Passover is not LL14. And we can't move the end of the Watchtower as a true church because it's 347 days before the contest began, which is a real physical date. It began on 2006 ER1 when I sent a letter to the Watchtower. And 347 days before then, that's the majority of the prophets of Baal hold over Team Jehovah, which is 100 prophets of Jehovah plus Obadiah plus Elijah plus his attendant, which is 450 less 103, which is 347. So we can't change that. And also there are only 3 Watchtower Passovers and late Passovers, and they start Sivan, which is a Zoa scenario, which is the latest possible start date, and this can't be a year out because of the 11 prophetic times of Abraham's times from 1943 BC to 2018 Nisan 14. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why the Passover has to be this month. We just thought that we would preside over it, but we don't. Laodicea do that. And it's quite amazing. I mean, the whole plan has been hidden. I mean, the demons have hidden themselves. I mean, some of them better than others. And no one really knows that they're here. No one really knows what they're doing. Although, if you read the Bible, you can see that they're going to have this terrible war that results in persuading everybody to take the mark of the beast, which is just a control freak manoeuvre. They're going to do what the Nazis did in Germany, only worldwide. National socialists. This is the left-wing globalist agenda. But not only are they hiding what they're doing, so is God. And he's saved, or will have saved, by this weekend, all of the 1NC reserves into the true church, before anybody knows what's going on, including me. I mean, we can deduce it from the Bible, but we've got no external confirmation of this. So everybody's playing this secretive game. It's like spy games. You know, the demons aren't letting anybody know what they're doing. God isn't letting anybody know what he's doing physically. The Bible does actually have information about what both of them are doing, but nobody believes it. So I do look forward to the day when we can see clearly what God is doing, and we see clearly what the dragon is doing. And all of this obfuscation and espionage and all this spy nonsense is busted open. You know, that day can't come too soon, in my opinion. But nonetheless, it's quite a brilliant protection for the saints, the way this has worked. And the dragon is not allowed to let off any nuclear bombs until everybody is sealed, which is Elul 10. And then before he knows what's happened, everybody's in the ark. All the saints are anyway. So it's quite a brilliant plan. But it's so well hidden on both sides. But the day of its being hided, or should I say the night of its being hided, is about to dawn and become a day when we see what's going on, which I think is the great day of Jehovah, of Joel 2 and Acts 2. So we look forward to that day. Yeah, and that's about it. Safe to say that it's nice that we're getting a few people, now, who are seeing through our prediction mistakes to the beauty of our doctrine, such as the Holy Spirit is God's wife. There's so much beauty there. All these doctrinal understandings that have eluded man and the churches for years, we have so many of them. So I would advise people with faith to look at our doctrine and don't be put off by our errant attempts to nail the chronology that's coded in this book. It's certainly coded. It's a question of someone doing the work to get it out.